Assalamu alaikum and good morning. On behalf of IRS, I would like to welcome you all to our event today, which is on Afghanistan humanitarian crisis, international responsibility. Before we begin, we would like to begin with the tilawat from the Holy Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
Post-US withdrawal, Afghanistan has been in a bit of a limbo. There is the dilemma of political recognition and legitimacy of the Taliban. Afghanistan has largely been dependent on foreign aid, and there is a looming humanitarian crisis. More than 22 million people are facing a food shortage, and 3 million children will be malnourished if the international community does not step up. This has the potential to disrupt the security situation within the country and cause regional instability. Our esteemed panelists today will be discussing this in further detail, but first of all, I would like to thank our chief guest, the Honorable Ali Muhammad Khan, Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs, for gracing us with his presence today, and I would request him to come on the podium and give his keynote speech.
मतलब आप अपनी चीफ गेस्ट से जल्दी जान छुड़ाना चाहते हैं ताकि मैदान खाली हो जाए। बहुत शुक्रिया। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्लाहु व मलाइकतुहु युसल्लूना अलन नबी या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनू सल्लु अलैहि व सल्लिमू तस्लीमा। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि व सल्लिम व बारिक अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मद। I'm very thankful for being invited here, and I was looking forward to listening from the esteemed panelists to learn something from you. But anyhow, I would go on with the invitation as you have given me to speak first. I think we are really at the crossroads of history again. We've been so many times at this position before, but probably this is one of the most important and key positions and time, not only for a young nation like Pakistan, but for the whole Central Asia and the whole South Asia. This is an inherent right of each and every human being to live, work, enjoy the good things of life. Because as we know, according to our religion, and according to any norms and concepts of humanity, the humans are all equal. This is what we say. It's all in the religious texts, may that be the Holy Quran or the Bible or any constitution of the world or any strictures. In any convention under United Nations, EU, may that be OIC, may that be any convention, there is something somewhere written, all human beings are equal. But are they really equal? Or some are more equal than the rest? It is the right of each and every human being to live and have a good life for his kids. But sadly, sometimes it happens that there is an invasion. You can't live according to your norms. And that is what has happened in Afghanistan continuously for the last 300 odd years. The nation of a resilient people who have never been subdued to the foreign occupation. I salute the people of Afghanistan, the national spirit of the Afghan nation. And yes, we have also played our part in that. Before Pakistan came into its existence, way back, when the United Kingdom, they tried to occupy the place, well, they got the taste of that. And as they say, and history books are full of this description that Afghanistan is the graveyard of the great past. But still, they try again and again to undo this historical fact. And they have not been able to do that till yet. There's only one nation apart from Afghanistan who has really paid the price, not only in terms of money and in terms of worldly losses, but yes, in terms of social fabric being disturbed, Nowhere in Pakistan, people would be hearing of heroin or drug culture or Kalashnikovs. Pakistanis has paid the price. For what and for whom? The world has to realize this, that in 1979, and when I talk about USSR or Soviet Union, I'm not talking about the present day Russia, because Pakistan is having very good relations with them now, and we are moving forward in a very good direction. Bilateral trade is increasing, mashallah, and state-to-state relations are increasing, and we're hopeful that we, as this whole area, this whole Central Asia, South Asia, we can move forward as a bloc, not against anybody else, but for humanity. But in 1979, at the zenith and the peak of Cold War, when the Red Army crossed the River Amu, the world was looking up towards Pakistan. We took the gauntlet. We were on the up front, and we paid the price. It was not a fight of Pakistan alone. Yes, we had our interests. There was a possibility that the Red Army may, after crossing River Amu, they may go towards the warm waters. But the world powers, they had interest. They wanted to stop the spread of communism, and whatever may be the reason, it's a long history. But when the world succeeded and Pakistan in the upfront, what happened then? This is the question which we must ask our friends in the West, that you come here and we play a role, a bilateral role or a coalition role, or a role in which we think that this is something which is good for the humanity. And then at the end of the day, you go and you leave the area just like that, you keep everything stranded, and instead of rewarding and at least acknowledging the sacrifices of the Pakistani nation, the state of Pakistan, you leave everything in the lurch. It's strange. And then we ask of friendships, then we ask of, and then we demand more from Pakistan. And then in the early 90s and the mid 90s, when we saw those restrictions and those amendments like Pressler amendments and all those restrictions against Pakistan, Pakistan was demonized. We have to tell the world that we fought your war, and not once but twice, in 1979 and then again in 2001. In the war on terror, and when the Twin Towers were attacked, not a single Pakistani was involved in that, thank God, and not a single Afghan as well. Invasion came on the state of Afghanistan, on the people of Afghanistan. Pakistan also joined the bandwagon for our own interest as well, but mainly to be a part of war on terror, or to fight against terrorism, as it was notionally being said. But then we see these demands of do more and perform more and come clean and FATF. Who has sacrificed more for the world peace than Pakistan? Tell me a single nation, apart from Pakistan, there's no country in the whole world who has sacrificed not once but twice. Not once but twice. And at the cost of not only monetary losses, but at the cost of life, human life, and sorrows. As yesterday, we just have passed since through another 16th of December. I was in Peshawar yesterday with the mothers of the martyrs of the Army Public School and the war heroes of Pakistan of 1971. My question to the world is, why did our children pay the price to make sure that the children of the world be safe, so that the kids in Washington, the kids in Venezuela, and the girls and boys living in Berlin or London or somewhere in the Gulf or GCC countries or somewhere in Africa, they are safe? Our kids had to pay the price with their own blood for the whole world, and now we should be left alone to take care of the white man's or the whole world's burden. This is the white man's burden, which they have to realize. You can't just leave Afghanistan like this. We have a great humanitarian crisis coming up. Pakistan is doing its bit. The state of Pakistan is doing its bit. The people of Pakistan are chipping in. Every political party is focused on it. every Pakistani NGO, and we're also asking and requesting international NGOs to come, we will allow your entry, make it easy for you, but you must come and see what is happening. There's a food crisis. There is a great crisis of education coming up because the new Afghan government probably would not be able to handle with them, no matter how much the dedication is, if the world don't come up to the demands which they had to do that, because you were there for the last 20 odd years. What sort of a system is in place in Afghanistan at the moment? If peace has come to the Afghan nation, they have achieved it by themselves. They fought for their independence. If we, as in the start, when I was saying that it's a right of each and every human being to live according to the norms and customs of his area, and to have good life, to the right to education, right to life, right to property. How can we deny that from the people of Afghanistan, or for that matter, from the people of Kashmir or that of Palestine? We honor those people who fought for the rights of the Americans. We call them the founding fathers of America. How are these people not the founding fathers of their own nation, who fought for the independence of their country way back in 1979, and then they again fought for the right of their self-determination, or right of self-rule, I would say. In each and every country, when the social fabric is destroyed, the state is disturbed. The state can't ensure and guarantee your right to life, your kids' right to education, your right to serve, your right to have a good job or business. Then the people take up either to arms, or if there is some sort of a possibility, then they go for political struggle. As we saw, Nelson Mandela went for a political struggle, but there were people who went for armed struggle. You have examples of Che Guevara, but you have, at the same time, you have Nelson Mandela or Mahatma Gandhi. But look at the irony of the fate. We talk about Mahatma Gandhi, who claimed to be a man of peace. The world know very little about even a greater person whose name was Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who single-handedly carved a nation based on ideology. So my point is, I will not talk at length because there are more learned people sitting on a podium than me, but I would say now is the time for the world to stand up, and don't just talk, they should walk the talk. Now is the time to be counted. Stand for the people of Afghanistan, whose lives and liberties have been destroyed. Their children have been killed. Their houses have been destroyed. Nobody has left. There were drones flying up upon their funerals, upon their marriages. Women were not spared. Old men were not spared. So now is the time that the world should come up. They should join hands with Pakistan and the present Afghan regime. And a time may come sooner or later that the world has to realize and give recognition to the present Afghan government as well. But that time may be a bit far at the moment. At the moment, what we are more focused and interested in is that winters are coming up. In fact, winters have come, and everybody knows how harsh it is in Afghanistan, the winters, what I'm saying. If somebody had the opportunity of visiting Kabul or Kandahar or Jalalabad, they must be knowing how harsh it is if you don't have good foods. What to say of warm water or heating, or using different means to warm themselves. They will not be even having blankets. There will be so many people who would be up in open sky. So the world should ensure, they should come forward. And I would request the Committee of Nations, and it is as we are, alhamdulillah, also hosting the International Organization of Islamic Countries program Day After Tomorrow, inshallah. I would also expect that the OIC would also stand up to this opportunity, which they had always did. Yes, with some reservations, but we welcome our esteemed guests there too. And we expect that they should also play their role and also convince the rest of the world that they should come up and help the Afghans, help the Afghanis. I would say in the end, please do your duty. Afghans are human beings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for your moving and enlightening remarks. I would like to move on to our panel discussion now. We have our esteemed panelists here today, which include Ambassador Asif Durrani, Brigadier Ishaq Ahmed Khader, Dr. Maria Sultan, and Dr. Osman Chauhan, who is joining us virtually. I would now hand over the mic to our moderator for today, Ms. Sumaira Khan.
Thank you very much, and I welcome you all once again. It's indeed an honor to speak to all of you. And since Minister mentioned there is a huge gathering coming in, and Pakistan is hosting it probably, after 1980s, and once again, the issue to discuss is Afghanistan. Afghanistan is such a topic that we can just keep discussing it, but right now, the focus of this discussion would be that fast approaching, and probably I would say an approached humanitarian, sheer and harsh humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. So I'll start with thank you very much, sir, for your comments, Minister. And Brigadier Ishaq, I'll start with you, sir. Then we can include comments of Minister and Honorable Maria Sultan and Honorable Ambassador as well. So if we talk about humanitarian crisis, right now, what do you see? What kind of humanitarian crisis? And if you can briefly tell the audience as well that by saying there is a humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, what exactly we are trying to figure out, what exactly we need to do in the first phase. Yeah, sure. If you're comfortable here.
I have a couple of slides to show.
Sure.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and respected Minister and Dr. Maria, and I intentionally gave this slide. I was working yesterday on this. There are two pictures. One is Kabul, other is Rome. Why Rome? We had a conference probably in October in Rome, and this was about Afghanistan. Why am I saying this? There are so many talks, so many gatherings for Afghanistan. But in last 3 months or more, what have we achieved? That is important to understand. Gathering is okay. We have an OIC coming up, of course, that's another one. But when you have more number of people talking and less number of response coming, I think that's the area which needs more focus on that account. Next picture, please. Now, this is the crisis situation. In reality, there are 4 broad areas. Health. I'll give you the figures also on that account. Then the displacement, the IDPs, the people who have moved to Kabul and surrounding areas and other major cities. Then food shortage, extreme food shortage. Yes, people are hungry. And then most importantly is the bank, Azizi, specifically, because that is the most important area which can bring Afghanistan back if the economy gets revived. Otherwise, there's no economy in Afghanistan. Just, please, next slide, please. Displacement is food. This is a figure, just figures, because I thought it is important to understand that how many people have been displaced. August 15, and then, of course, September 7, 8, Taliban declared their government. But in that time, when the Americans were leaving, when the Taliban were trying to reach, there was a very high displacement. This is a moderate figure, 600 to 800,000 people. The Kabul population is around 5 to 7 million. Is all estimates. There's no such thing as counted for. But the number of people who have moved in is, and you see these figures, Badghis is 53,000, Nangarhar 38,000. This all figure is for the only purpose that we should understand how many people have moved out of their homes and are in shelter. The picture which you saw earlier, that's really that's Kabul's picture. And then we have hunger. Afghanistan is, day before yesterday, we had a small gathering in Marriott, and the Afghan, the American had come, one who was special representative of Afghanistan. He said the crisis is that Afghanistan is facing drought. Yes, this year crop was low, but is that the issue? That there is less crop? No, that is not the issue. The issue is that they have not been able to import wheat, sugar, ghee, and so many things. In last 3 months, there have been no import because of which I'll talk about a little later. 1/3 of the Afghanistan population and 38 is facing food insecurity. This is not because of the bad crop. It is because of the situation that has come up in Afghanistan, because there's no government and the stoppage of total international aid, which Afghan economy was surviving on aid. WFP says its worst humanitarian crisis that is coming up. It is the World Food Program, which says, and 23 million are facing acute food shortage. Coming on to poverty. Yes, Afghanistan is a poor country. There's no doubt in that. And 90% of the population was living less than on $2. It is not me who is saying, it is President Ashraf Ghani said it. In 2020, he said, this is the figure. Next slide, please. Health. The most serious area, I believe, is this. It is at serious risk. Yes, WHO says COVID response has gone low. 22,300 health facilities, only 17% are working. And essential medicine is gone. I'll give you the figure what we have sent at the end. Health system, of course, collapse. I think this is just words. Next slide, please. Interesting figure. Another area which Afghanistan, people are leaving Afghanistan. People have fled Afghanistan. And just give you one small, although it's not good, but during the month of September, friends of mine told me that if you can manage the crossing to Pakistan, we are ready to pay you $700 to $800 per man crossing to Pakistan. And the figure at that time was 17,000 who had requested that special permit to enter Pakistan so they can go abroad. And then is the another 50,000 people say are likely to leave England. This is two, brain drain, one, but they are escaping Afghanistan because of what? Uncertain future. And the fear which they were facing at that time, the Taliban are the same old lot of 1994, 96, 2001. And they are going to impose the same kind of the rule, the girls and the education and the 5 ke bajaye 6 namazein padha do, all those things. That was the fear which was forcing them to leave Afghanistan, and that is still there. What do they require? This is what's important at the moment for us, and of course for the government and for the OIC. If Minister could tell them, this is exactly is required by them. They require medicine and hospital management. And let me tell you, hospital management, we had requested Afghans, tell us, and they gave us a figure of just total health facilities. तो 24 अरब रुपया उन्होंने हमसे डिमांड किया है. 2.5 अरब रुपया 1 महीने का उनका अस्पतालों का खर्च. तनख्वाहें. I'm not talking of anything else. I'm not talking of equipment. I'm not talking of the medicine. I'm talking of the salaries of the people, of all those who are working in those hospitals and health clinics. वो figure हमारे पास सही है. Of course, medicine उसके अलावा है. Food, yes. Food की 2 reasons हैं. एक ट्रेड बंद हुआ है जो मिनिस्टर साहब ने भी कहा. But सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी ये है कि अफगानिस्तान की डिमांड 1 महीने की शुगर, बुरा, अफगान who are saying they can understand, they call it बुरा, 1 लाख टन उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट है. 1 लाख टन उनकी गंदम की रिक्वायरमेंट है. 1 लाख टन उनकी चावल की रिक्वायरमेंट है. अफगान गवर्नमेंट इज रेडी टू परचेज फ्रॉम अ प्राइवेट सेक्टर, and we are looking at that. A friend of mine asked, how can we help? I said, you can't help. Why? Because you can't transfer that money. LC system is not working. $38 million की 1 लाख की शुगर की प्राइस है जो अफगान गवर्नमेंट देने को तैयार है. Coming on to administration and management, this has got affected because of two things, of course. एक तो वो लोग निकल गए हैं जो कर रहे थे. Airport, give you just one small example of the day when the American was leaving. They destroyed the equipment at Kabul airport with bullets. They took away the Afghan हमारा नादरा वाला डाटा जिस तरह का है उनका एयर passports का तमाम डाटा American have either destroyed or taken away. So if you have an Afghan passport and if you go to Kabul and tell them that this is genuine, they can't find it. There's nothing available with them. That's another area. जिसकी वजह से administration or management people are leaving and then the salary is not there. So what to do? If you can't pay somebody, what for is going to work? Capacity, we are working on these all things. Let me tell you, we as in the capacity of Pak Afghan Cooperation Forum, which was established in September 2021. In last 3 months, I'll give you the figures what we have given so far. Capacity building, we are thinking of long. They are asking us for training their health staff, their management, even traffic management. They've categorically asked us that please manage our traffic in Kabul. We can't do that. So this is the crisis-like situation. And then finally, I'll just talk a little on the financial assistance. हमने जो कुछ भी उनको कहा कि यार हम ये देते हैं, ये देते हैं, ये देते हैं. The bottom line came up कि सर पैसे दे दें. पैसे क्यों दे दें? Let me tell you, in one day, they collected $6 million of revenue. ये वो revenue है जो 5-6 उनके साथ जो borders मिलते हैं, ईरान, पाकिस्तान, of course, and Central Asia. वहाँ से जो trade हो रहा है, वो वाला जो कि legal transaction of money से नहीं हो रहा, जो LC के हिसाब से नहीं हो रहा, जो न्यूयॉर्क के मनी फ्लो करती है उससे नहीं हो रहा. ये वो ट्रेड है जो आइदर बॉर्डर पे हो रहा है या कैश फ्लो के ऊपर वो हो रहा है. उसके ऊपर भी उन्होंने एक दिन में $6 million, बट $6 million इज नो मनी. 3.5 से 4.25 करोड़ की आबादी है. उस आबादी की में तनख्वाहें लोगों को देने के लिए भी पूरा नहीं होता ये पैसा. लेकिन व्हाट डू दे वांट व्हेन इट कम्स टू फाइनेंशियल सिचुएशन? दे जस्ट वांट देम allow them to do economic activity. अल्कोज़ई कहता है मेरा एक दिन का millions of dollars की transaction है और आप मुझे कहते हैं कि आप $25,000 बैंक से निकाल सकते हैं. मैं कैसे करूंगा? How can I feed Afghan? That business allowing is the only option, which I said in the initially, that if you allow them to work, financial sanctions, financial bindings, बैंक फ्रीजिंग ये खत्म करें तो अफगानिस्तान को किसी एड की जरूरत है नहीं है. एंड लेट मी टेल यू, नो एड विल बी एबल टू ब्रिंग अफगान बैक. नहीं, आप नहीं कर सकेंगे. 4 महीने बाद आपका रेस्क्यू पीरियड खत्म हो जाएगा, आपका रिलीफ पीरियड खत्म हो जाएगा. उसके बाद आपको जरूरत पड़ेगी कि वो खुद, मैंने आपसे सिर्फ एक अस्पतालों वाली सिर्फ एक बात की, अब वो भी पूरी नहीं करते. महीने के 2.5 अरब हम देने को तैयार हैं. कैन वी गिव देम? नो. 2.5 अरब अफगान करेंसी कह रहा हूं, उसको डबल कर लें पाकिस्तान करेंसी में. दिस इज द सिचुएशन. एंड फाइनली जस्ट कपल ऑफ स्लाइड दैट इज I don't know, people at the back can see. In last 3 months, we have sent around if I'm not, let me consult my note. I think I'm a little bad in that reading. Anyway, this is the aid. ये कहाँ से आई? This is donations. पाकिस्तानी donations हैं, जिसमें कुछ of course NGOs भी आई हैं बीच में. उसके अलावा भी कुछ लोग आए हैं जो मुखैर हज़रात हैं, उन्होंने दिया है. And 1700 टन्स का लोड कल परसों तक जा चुका है. आज नहीं कल 10 ट्रक और जा रहे हैं जो कि फार्मासिस्ट ने दिए हैं, PPMA ने. 115 trucks, 4 C-130s. This we have sent in last 3 months onward, from September onward. Then what we have in pipeline, PPMA has given us medicine, which is 180 ton, Save the Children 270 ton, Akhuwat local hai. Unhone hame diye 150 tons. Total comes to 626 tons, which is in pipeline only in December. Only in December. And thanks to everybody, Pakistani nation in specific, of course. And जो सामान भेजा है वो देख लीजिएगा सिर्फ कि वहां हमने क्या कुछ भेजा है. सिर्फ अगली स्लाइड दिखा दें. ये सारी चीजें जी जो वहां जा रही हैं, आटा है, घी है, चीनी है, राइस है, pulses, medicine, biscuit, everything, school kits. Just to give you a figure that we are doing our best as a nation, as a country. But is it sufficient? No, it is not sufficient. Still, I was talking yesterday to my friends in Kabul and in South. There is a serious problem of health. Serious problem. Clinics बंद हैं, तनख्वाहों की वजह से बंद हैं, सामान की वजह से बंद हैं, दोनों चीजें नहीं है वहां पर. स्कूल्स बंद हैं, तनख्वाहों की वजह से बंद हैं. दुकानदार, one of the shopkeeper, he closed his shops. उसने कहा मैं आज $5 का तेल बेचूंगा, घी का डब्बा बेचूंगा, तो कल मुझे $6 का लेना पड़ेगा, खुद खरीदना पड़ेगा. उन्होंने कहा यार बंद कर दो, मैं खुद इस्तेमाल करूंगा. So bottom line is, thank you very much for taking that much of time, of course. But the bottom line is, humanitarian aid, yes, it is important because that's how you can help other human beings. But that will not serve the purpose. The crises in Afghanistan are because of the American presence, because of the American leaving, and it is the American who can resolve it. Nobody else. No IMF, nothing like that. They stop that, unfreeze that account, although 10 billion is not a big money. उसको unfreeze करेंगे, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ financial activity को allow करेंगे तो चीज होगी. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And I'll be quickly moving to Ma'am Maria Sultan. Then Ambassador Saab, then at the end, I'll request Minister to add in a further piece of comments, whatever he was able to gather from your comments. Maria, you also work in the security spheres. So when you see these pictures coming in from Afghanistan and you see this hunger thing, and he very well elaborated 4 key points where we need to work right now. And more than us, it's the US which needs to work. But I have seen many talks and many gatherings and seminars and workshops that we are trying to tell US that this is where you are needed, this is what you need to do. So do we really think that the party that was ruling Afghanistan as de facto for 20 years, we need to tell him or her that you need to do your job? They need everything, like already it's elaborated to what exactly we need to tell them. Come and do your part, or you need something else to say?
Thank you so much, Amara, for this question. I think there are no easy answers, but I am going to be as candid about it. And I think I'm going to take cue from what the minister had said. It was not the Afghans which decided that the war on terror is launched on their soil. But the fact of the matter is, it is the Afghans which paid the price. Now, when we talk about terrorism, let's not forget that terrorism is also a human issue. This basically means somewhere along the line, people believe that the governance structures, people believe that other structures are not available to them. Henceforth, the legitimate demands for being considered as humans is lost. There comes in ideology, there comes in factors, there comes in human loss. So if the international community will decide to ostracize the people of Afghanistan and put them in the corner, and then expect reform and expect that social standards are met, then it won't happen. All right, what is it that we saw the war in Afghanistan on? Number one, we saw that because we believe that the regime was not responsive to international demands, that they were not being very clear whether they were going to stand with Al-Qaeda or they were going to stand with the international community's response. A war effort is launched, 20 years of war effort. What happens in 2017? What happens in 2007? Two things. They say that we believe now ISIS has come forward. ISIS did not come forward as a result of the Taliban regime. It did come forward in the times when the American-led, ISAF-led, NATO-led forces were on ground in presence in Afghanistan. So this meant that the state which was being constructed, the mission which was being left, had lots of things which were not complete. So at this moment, the hard reality is that it is the Afghan state which is in crisis. The hard reality is this, that if you really want terrorism to go away from Afghanistan and you really want social standards to be uplifted, then we need to give the Afghan Taliban government at least the right of recognition, which is based on equal understanding that they are the ones in power. Three things here. One, the agreements for the US troop exit was done with who? The Taliban. So this basically means they were good enough for a safe exit, but they're not good enough to help the people of Afghanistan. Fair enough. Number two, the United Nations Assistance Mission for Afghanistan said it will extend its operations in Afghanistan till March 2022 under the UN Security Council Resolution 2596, which says that we will stand with the people of Afghanistan. Is this what you call standing with the people of Afghanistan? This is not standing with the people of Afghanistan. How do you expect someone who has witnessed 20 years of war and now his child or his brother or his father or his mother dies because of hunger? Because you're deciding to close all options for them to have any life, any dignity. And I think we were having a discussion before we started, and you're referring to the fact that there is lots of movement in terms where they're thinking to support contractors to start another proxy war in Afghanistan. So if this is what the people of Afghanistan are going to get, then unfortunately the mission with which they started in 2001, that they wanted this area to be free of terrorism, is never going to happen. Because proxies will be run, war will remain the only currency. And this is not what the world promised the people of Afghanistan. This is not what the world invested in Afghanistan. Because if it was supposed to be a security transition, if it was supposed to be a transition in which the people of Afghanistan would be led by the people of Afghanistan, then where do you give them this space? So I think these are hard questions. They negotiated with the Taliban regime when it helped them. They're suffocating the regime now because you want to perpetuate a humanitarian crisis. I think there needs to be very strong questions to be asked by especially the youngsters and members of the press, that is it the people of Afghanistan's fault that a global war was fought in that territory? And it is the people of Afghanistan's fault that today the world has walked away and they are perpetuating a humanitarian crisis by putting the state of Afghanistan in crisis. We need to differentiate in terms of what the state of Afghanistan stands for and what the government of Afghanistan stands for. You can ask the government to have better models. You can ask the government to have better standards. But if you collapse the state, exactly, what are you expecting? Perhaps we would be witnessing for the first time what we have been listening in literature, the reality of a failed state. And not because it is collapsing on its own. It's not because the people of Afghanistan are not dignified or they don't want to work, they don't want to live under a free Afghanistan, because you are perpetuating it. You are creating financial crisis, you are collapsing international transactions, you're collapsing international humanitarian assistance, you're blocking them, and then you're penalizing all the regional countries, us included. We are under tremendous pressure that we should not say even a single word in favor, because if we will say so, then we will be there to blame. We have taken the blame. We have taken the blame in the case of people. We have taken the blame in terms of our effects on our culture. We have taken the blame in terms of APS. We have taken the blame in every possible way. But at the end of the day, I would like to thank the ambassador for actually consigning this event next to the OIC. I think the only message we would like to give from here is that the Afghans are Muslims at this moment, since the OIC is about to, special session is about to happen in Pakistan on Afghanistan, and they deserve the right of being considered as Muslims and humans, that their access to them remains alive. You can penalize them, you can demonize them, you can see the world from a Western lens, fine. You can play global power politics, you can play security dimensions, but does it mean that you kill people on ground And you do this because we consider ourselves to be civilized, because our states are intact. I think they're bigger question marks. They're Islamic brothers. And I think it is the responsibility of at least the Muslim community, which is being organized under the OIC, to think through, help the state of Afghanistan, so that the people of Afghanistan can actually live with dignity. I think there are no easy answers, but the security situation will perpetuate if the humanitarian crisis continues to become a stark reality. Brigadier Isaac has been very generous in not highlighting the statistics which we have. That shows that almost there are 10 provinces from where internally displaced people seem to be unmoving. It is considered that there is another possibility of a rise of ISIS in different provinces, because people believe that there is no other way they can make a decent living.
Exactly.
Unless they don't go and start working with some proxy. So if this is what you want to, this is the only option you want to give to the Afghans, then you say, why is it that they're not conforming to international standards? And let's not forget, was the war in Afghanistan actually about girls' education? Or was it actually about eliminating this area from not becoming a safe haven for global terrorists? And if you really want that, then let's talk about the state. Let's talk about the fact that help the people, so that actually the UNMA mission means something. We don't have a global conference at the end of March 2022, which states that the UNMA still wants to continue its mission, and the people have now gone from first step towards the last step. I think there are some hard questions, but the answers exist. The only thing which is missing at this moment is the courage and our will and our ability to actually understand that no matter how we see Afghanistan from a security context, it is still a human issue and it requires a human response.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Asif, quickly from you, and then I'll go to Minister to have his point of view. So what do we think? In Afghanistan, security sphere is one debate, but on the other side, as Maria mentioned, that they are still thinking about having a decent living, and probably that would be the factor that is pushing them even to join the ISIS quarters. So I think it's a far-fetched dream for them to have a decent living. Right now, they are very much worried about the 2 times meal right now. So why world is not looking at that chapter in specific? And what is taking, like, why it's so hard for US to unfreeze their assets? Your very quick and brief comment on that.
Thank you, Sumaira. Mr. Minister, Ambassador Nadeem Riaz, thank you for hosting this very important event on the advent of extraordinary meeting of the OIC ministers. In my view, the world does not think what we are thinking, because only the wearer knows where the shoe pinches. So if we are wearing the shoe, only we know where the shoe pinches. But how to make realize the world, I think it is now trickling down. And Brigadier Sak has rightly pointed out that without the United States, their understanding, if we think that this issue would be resolved, that would be a gigantic task. So US has to be on board, because everything revolves around their actions they have taken. As pointed out by Brigadier Sak also, that Afghan banks can't do the business. So it means don't expect normalcy coming to Afghanistan. How long they'll be, depending on the doles from the world, and how long the world is going to offer that assistance to the Afghans. So this is a major issue, and that has to be resolved. And since this OIC ministerial meeting is taking place, in which all the P5 countries, EU, and major international financial institutions, they are also coming. So it would provide an excellent opportunity to those who matter as far as Afghanistan is concerned, to sensitize them that what are the real issues. And then I have also read that the Afghan delegation will also be coming. They may not occupy the seat of Afghanistan because there's no decision by the OIC, at least for the time being. But they will have an opportunity to meet delegations. And then Troika Plus is also meeting on the sidelines. So I think there is some kind of understanding that now countries which matter, they are ready to discuss these issues. But it is not going to be one-way traffic because Taliban will also have to respond. And the demands are very clear. Number one, about the inclusiveness of the Afghan dispensation. Forget about it that if the Taliban Foreign Minister demands from the US that would you agree to include Trump into your administration? That's not the case. In their American system, they have got the mechanism to resolve the things. Here, Taliban, they are the occupiers. They have fought. We call it victory or whatever we call it, conquest. But at the same time, you may have conquered Afghanistan, but right now this is a unique victory where the victors are seeking help from the world. So I think in that case, then they'll have to compromise. It is going to be a quid pro quo. Otherwise, I think then it would be very difficult for the present dispensation in Afghanistan to continue. There are already vibes that opposition, they are gathering. Like Taliban, they took at least 3 years to reconsolidate and then they started their operations. So this is Afghanistan. We are talking about Afghanistan. And I think revenge is the first pillar of their society, whether it is among the Pashtuns, the code of Pashtunwali, to which number one pillar is revenge. Then comes Malmastia and then Ghairat. So if that is the case, so other Afghan ethnic groups, they also are part of that society, whether those are Tajiks, Uzbeks or Hazaras. So I don't think that without Taliban compromising on women's rights, United States and Europe are going to budge. And Taliban will have to decide that what kind of a model, Islamic model, they want to present to the world. Frankly, I, for one, would not subscribe to that model here in my country. If that's the case, even if it is an Islamic model with Afghan characteristics, it has to be part of the world because Afghanistan is not living in an island or it's the center of the universe as far as their so-called Islamic ideology is concerned. So they have to compromise. And because otherwise, then if Taliban spokesman telling that Pakistan is not an Islamic country, so it should be an enough commentary for us to understand. And then for them, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, or for that matter, Bosnia, do not fall in the category of Muslims. So Taliban will have to compromise. So this is what I want to highlight because the issues are simple. If Afghanistan has to return to normalcy, it has to have the normal system of governance, including banking channels, so they can trade with the world. And secondly, they will have to offer a political package to their own country, which should be acceptable as the world, because we are living in a world, and when we can come criticize the Indian atrocities against the minorities, so Taliban cannot be insulated for that. If we are asking for the Palestinian rights, or we are asking for the Kashmiri's right to self-determination, so we are in our own right, we are right. But for Taliban, since they have ramrodded, they have just took the country through military resistance. It is okay that you can rule the world at the horseback, as the Genghis Khan said. You can conquer the world on horseback, but you can't rule it. So for that, they have to be part of the international system. And This is what I want to submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Indeed, it was a valuable addition. We have been joined by Dr. Usman Chauhan, Director, Economic Affairs and National Development at CAS, Center for Aerospace and Security Studies. So with your permission, I would like to invite his comments because he's the best man at the discussion right now we are having. Dr. Usman, welcome to the debate. And since we are having a discourse on what are the challenges, economic challenges, and looking at the broader scenario, what is going to happen in Afghanistan. So I think I'll give you the platform to get what you have to say on this. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sumera, Honorable Minister, Ambassador Nimriaz, my fellow colleagues. Assalamu alaikum. So far, it's been a very comprehensive discussion. So what I'm doing is filling in certain pieces. My area of expertise here is the disaster and reconstruction elements of economic systems and architectures, having looked at Iraq and Venezuela in detail, and I see similar patterns, and that's what I want to divert your attention to. As has already been mentioned, about 75% of the public spending that was done in the previous regime was foreign aid grants, an entirely unsustainable model. And even back then, 90% of Afghans lived on an income of less than $2 a day, as was mentioned previously. But what you see now that is different from even failed states, as Maria mentioned, is a universal poverty. So if Somalia, when it failed, didn't have universal poverty, but now you are looking at 98% of people being below the poverty line. 98% of Afghans are not eating enough right now, and 7 in 10 families are borrowing food. So that's where we are. This is quite unique in a post-war condition. This doesn't happen. And the reason is because there are larger exogenous forces compounding this. There is drought, as was mentioned by Brigadier Saab, and climate change. That isn't the seminal factor, but it is very important to see that they are victims of this larger exogenous force, as well as COVID-19. Let's not forget that not every country has been as successful as Pakistan. In fact, they all haven't compared to Pakistan in managing COVID. In Afghanistan, it's been pretty bad, but you simply don't have the data or the health architecture as elaborated by Brigadier Saab. The cost push inflation now, I think, is the one source of desperation. I'll tie that into the insights into other countries that have been put into the shackles of this sort of economic warfare. So, as you may have heard in the news media, it's about 2,800 to 3,200 Afghanis for a 50-kilogram bag of flour. So that is about 40% higher than a week ago. It's about 5,000 rupees. The price of sugar has gone up by 30% in a week. Price of rice, 15%. This is how it is. And if you track the Afghani's official rate, 80 to $1 at the fall of Kabul, and then gradually went up to 100 and shot up to 120. But market is entirely imperfect in foreign exchange. Dealers and central bank are not coming together on this. Plus, there's a crisis of confidence. There was speculation that a bank had become insolvent. So nobody trusts anyone. And trust is the basis of economic life. So with this new regime, nothing seems to be working. And how is this different from Venezuela or Iraq? Well, in every case that the United States has tried sanctions as an instrument of warfare, it has failed to break the will of the people. They have still remained resilient. For example, in Iraq, there was almost 15-year oil for food program thing broken through the or punctuated by the Gulf War. So you failed to break their will until you absolutely destroyed everything. And same with Venezuela. You have 1.7 million Venezuelans in Colombia, and also expanding into Brazil. But the system is not overrun by it. It's just sheer suffering, purely blind suffering that you impose. And that's where I think the economic logic breaks down. And so sanctions as an instrument should not be used. And that's why the humanitarian element comes in, that you're not going to get the revenge you want. The revenge that the American people are seeking, they can vote new people into Congress and new people into the executive. But that's not going to do anything to solve what is perhaps the worst example of universal poverty in our lifetime. And that's why I think the economic logic of disaster reconstruction is holding us back despite our willingness. Brigadier Saab pointed to various civil society and public sector efforts. But until the shadow of sanctions looms over, I know that the language in the bills excluded Pakistan now, and I think things are easing up. But until civil society can make a proactive effort, our aspirations to assist a brotherly country for our good and theirs cannot be realized. And so we are seeing a very unique situation. I know you are all monitoring it. I'm monitoring it as well. But I'm entirely, I'm terrified by the possibilities of what can happen within a winter. And I leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chauhan. And with that, Honorable Minister, I would invite your comments, and then I want to open forum for a few questions and answer, because we know you have to leave then, and we'll be inviting some questions too. So over to you. You just heard the discourse, and what do you have to say now? Sure, please.
MashaAllah, it was really enlightening. As Dr. Saiba had said, it's a very complex issue, and you don't have easy ready-made answers for the problem. And I'm thankful for the insight given by Brigadier Saab and Honorable Ambassador Saab as well. Well, it is something which we all have to collectively think about, and how to get out of this very important challenge and take the Afghan people out of this mess. Well, there has to be multi-pronged approach to this problem. We can't just go unidimensional and expect something from somebody, especially expecting that something from that somebody who not been able to do that while being there personally in Afghanistan for 20 odd years. Will they do that now when they have left it? Talking about women's rights, I would like to enlighten myself that has the world powers, the so-called biggest world carriers of world symbolisms of the human rights, the so-called torch bearers of humanity. How many female laureates they have produced in the last 20 years in Afghanistan? How many female doctors? How many female engineers? How many female institutes for nursing have been established there? Or were they in collaboration with the arch rival of Pakistan in establishing terrorist centers there from which Pakistan was being targeted? Why is it that since they are now out of Afghanistan for a few months, and suddenly the terrorism has reduced not only in Afghanistan, but the cross-border attacks have also been reduced in Pakistan? You also have to answer this, that why on earth did you come to Afghanistan to sort out the problem of terrorism and created such a mess that Pakistan had to pay the price in 70,000 casualties, civilian and military both? And these are the answers which our youth, and we have to put these questions, especially our overseas diaspora. We have learned Pakistanis, overseas Pakistanis, and I would also request the overseas Afghan nationals living in US, living in the UK, living in Australia, living in many other different countries in the West, to put these questions that yes, you came to my country, my homeland, as an Afghan. If I'm an Afghan, I would say like this, that you invaded my country to educate me, to tell me what is humanity. There is no a culture human being more than an Afghan, I tell you. Look at their poetry, look at their music. Despite under continuous threat of terrorism and warmongering for not 1, 2, 3 years, decades, hundreds of years, for the last 300 odd years, they've been put in continuous warmongering by the world powers. And when we talk about failed states, what is the state? Everybody knows about this. What is the state? So a state is responsible for the well-being of its subjects, right? Well, your role changes by the value of stature which you enjoy. A chief minister of a province, for example, chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is not responsible for the well-being of the people of Punjab, because he's only responsible for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. But the prime minister of the country is responsible for the whole country. What if you become a regional power? What if you become a power in the continent? And what if you become a global power? If you claim to be a global power, please start behaving like one. The responsibilities don't just end in one particular continent. If you are a global power, you're responsible because your actions are impacting the lives of the people living in a nook and corner of the world. Your actions have the potential capability of benefiting the people living in this global community of nations. And at the same time, you can damage their lives as well, which has been done. I would not like to blame any particular country, because such type of blame gaming would not help the Afghans. But we have to show the true and the real picture. As it was being said way years ago by John Donne, that every man is an island, not completely unto itself. The death of every man diminishes me, because I'm involved in humanity. And when the bell tolls, don't send for whom the bell tolls, it's sent for thee. मतलब ये है कि कोई आदमी जजीरा नहीं है कि वो अकेला क्यों रह रहा है. आप असरअंदाज होते हैं एक दूसरे पे. तो ये जब बजती है घंटी, तो ये मत पूछो कि किसकी बज रही है, तुम्हारी बज रही है मौत की घंटी. वो पूछते हैं ना, कहते हैं ना कि जनाजा जा रहा, तो कहते ये किसका है, वो कहते हैं ये मत पूछो किसके, तुम्हारा जनाजा है, कल को तुमने मरना है. Well, to solve this problem, as I initially, I'm not a scholar on Afghan affairs. Many of you sitting here in the audience and on the podium are more learned than me. But living in a province for the last so many years, which is adjacent to Afghanistan, talking the same language as the most of the Afghans says, as I'm basically, linguistically, I'm a Pashtun. So we know many of the problems which probably our brothers and sisters living in the rest of Pakistan would not be understanding that much, because the cultural norms are very much the same across the borders of Afghanistan and Pakistan. We share the same religion, we share the same culture, we listen to the same music. And there's one thing which I would request the audience and the learned colleagues sitting on the podium. Please, we must come out of this syndrome that this is something which we are giving a great favor to the people of Afghans, and it's not our problem, but if we are doing something good, so we are really proving to be great human beings and great neighbors. No, this is our problem, brothers. Because if you have a failed state, God forbid, if you have a problem in Afghanistan, that will directly affect the lives of the people living in Gujranwala and Liari and Gilgit-Baltistan. If there is fire in a neighborhood, you can't run away from the flames. And this is not what Ali Muhammad is saying. This is something which our national poet had said many years ago, that the whole of South Asia is like a body made of clay, whose heart is Afghanistan. And if there's peace in Afghanistan, there will be peace in South Asia. So first of all, there has to be this realization within our own people in Pakistan that we have to sort out this problem, because it is in our favor. If we want CPAC to succeed, we need a peaceful Afghanistan so that we can get access to the Central Asia. And if we have a peaceful Afghanistan, just imagine the amount of business and trade going on and prosperity, and people from Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan coming to Kabul, coming to Islamabad, going to Turbat, going to Gawada, and the CPEC blooming. And you will see a real sense of food, as Allama had said many years ago, that Kol Aankh Zami Dekh, Falak Dekh, Faza Dekh, Mashriq se ubarte hue Suraj ko zara dekh. This is that new era which is launching upon us. We just have to play our cards carefully. The second thing is, yes, we have to plead and argue the case of the Afghan in front of our Muslim brothers and sisters coming in OIC, which many of them have arrived. We have to convince them, but they have their own compulsions as well. There's this tendency in us that we always, put an extra blame upon the OIC. They have their restrictions as well. So we should expect from them what they can do. At this moment, we should not just criticize and claim and propose and expect things from different countries, especially our Muslim brotherhoods. Whatever we can get, we should accept that graciously and try and become a bridging role, try and play the role of a bridge between the Afghans, state of Afghans, the Afghanis, and the rest of the world, including the Muslim Ummah. Then there has to be the regional approach, which in my opinion is one of the most important. We have to engage our Iran brothers. We have to engage China in it, and of course Russia as well. We have to convince them, which they are already convinced, but we have to work in close collaboration with them and tell them that the peace of Afghanistan lies in the hands of its great powers living in its neighborhood. If we can work together, if China, Pakistan, our Muslim brother Iran, and of course Russia as well, if we can put in something, gel in something together, if we can plan for them, so this Afghanistan problem will be, inshallah, it will start to subside in the near future, inshallah al-Aziz. But the most important, and I think the very urgent need of the hour at the moment is that there has to be this realization in the political parties, in our intelligentsia, among our student community, our scholars, and ordinary common Pakistani citizens, that this is something which is our problem. This is not the problem of Afghans. This is our problem not only as a Muslims, because Huzur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had said in Sahih Bukhari that whole of the Muslims are just like one whole body politic, and if there's a pain in one part of the body, the whole body feels the pain. But even if we don't think it from the Muslim perspective, from a regional perspective, from a global perspective, and from a perspective of increasing our chances of playing a bigger role in the community of nations, in terms of technology, in terms of expanding in agriculture and business, Pakistan need a peaceful Afghanistan. In the end, I would like to pay again tribute to the Afghan spirit of bravery, of heroism, of never getting subjugated, of always fighting for the rights as they did in my lifetime. I'm one of those blessed persons of this generation who have seen the Afghan rising to the call of their conscience, not once, but twice. Once in 1979 and then in 2001, the world has to realize it's not easy to get yourself, your land liberated, not once, but twice from the great powers. In the words of their very own Matiullah Turab from Afghanistan, a few couplets. And if any one of you who understand Pashto, you must go and listen to Matiullah Turab. He's a person in whom you can understand the spirit of the Afghan bravery of never, never letting your guns go down or your spirits go down. As he says, I'll say it in Pashto and translate it in Urdu or English. The cha da bagawat sar tar pamira rasedale. The cha da bagawat sar tar pamira rasedale. The cha tit sar damla tar tir rasedale. The cha da bagawat sar tar pamir rasedale, the cha tit sar damla tar tir rasedale, oi sara da bagawat janana arte tanay garze, sara da bagawat janana arte tanay garze, ta'ajjub nale pa dumra rakhibanu ki jwandu. Salam to the Afghan spirit, in which he says that there are people, there are some of human beings whose heads are held high in national pride up until the rise of the mountain of Pamir. But then there are some people whose heads are bowing line low in subjugation, perpendicular and parallel to their backs. इतना वो झुक गए हैं कि उनके सर उनके कमरों के साथ सीधे हो गए और कुछ के सर आसमान तक बुलंद है, पामीर तक. फिर कहते हैं, and he says that सरद बगावत जानान आरते तनाई गर्जे, that you are fighting for your rights, you're fighting for the rights and the nationhood of your great soil, and still you're roaming around freely without any fear. Isn't it very strange? So this is a tribute from my side to the Afghan nation, to their spirit of never saying die. May the Afghans live long, may they live long in prosperity. As I had the opportunity, a great good fortune of me when I was being sent by the Prime Minister of Pakistan a couple of years ago when there were grave security situation. It was not easy to go there. And we inaugurated the Muhammad Ali Jinnah Hospital, $18 million project of Pakistan, a great gift from the people of Pakistan to the people of Afghanistan. And when we were even inaugurating that hospital, the Indians were up upon their shenanigans, and they were trying to sabotage our opening. And in the hotel in which I was there, when I left that hotel and when we went for inauguration ceremony, that area was under attack by their terrorists. They probably didn't want it to kill me, but what they wanted to do was to delay that proceeding so that it could be inaugurated by the Afghan president of that time, vice president, without the Pakistani representative. But alhamdulillah, I was there representing you, representing my state, representing my nation, alhamdulillah, with the name of Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And I still remember when we inaugurated that hospital, I requested the vice president that please also keep a big picture of Muhammad Ali Jinnah on the front entrance, so that when people come and they see Muhammad Ali Jinnah hospital in Kabul, they should see the picture of my founder, which probably they have not done that. I would request Muttaqi Sahab when I meet him again that please do that this time. Pakistan Zindabad, Pakistan Afghan Friendship Paindabad. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you very much, Minister. And it was indeed an honor to listen to you. And you added a lot. And probably now I don't need to go through all over that again. And with permission of all you distinguished guests present here at the stage, I would like to open forum for an informal session of question and answers. I think all of you, whoever has a question, they can ask any question from the present. So first you, then you. So introduce yourself first, and then you can. जी 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 जी
उन्होंने कहा कि पाकिस्तान में 1,70,000 बच्चे 5वीं सालगिरह में देखते हैं
malnutrition
हमारे लिए तो ख्याल रखना चाहिए, खासकर हमारे साथ के बच्चों के पास।
बहुत शुक्रिया मिनिस्टर फर्स्ट विद यू देन आई
हाँ जी, मैं जो
डॉक्टर उस्मान
गवर्नमेंट के हवाले से, खान साहब के हवाले से जो आपने बात की है उस पर मैं पहले कमेंट जो है वो कर देता हूँ, फिर जो ब्रिगेडियर साहब वो आपके दूसरे इशू पे वो कर देते हैं। देखें, खान साहब के साथ मैंने उनको बहुत चीज़ों पे जो बड़ा कंसर्न देखा है, दिस इज़ वन ऑफ दैट। उसकी रीज़न ये है कि चूँकि खुद भी ट्राइबल उनमें वो है, ज़ाहिर है वो पश्तून भी हैं और वो हमेशा से ये ट्राइबल एरियाज में फिरते रहे हैं। ही हैड ऑलवेज बीन अगेंस्ट द मिलिट्री ऑपरेशंस एंड ड्रोन स्ट्राइक एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स, तो काफ़ी उनको उस चीज़ का वो रहता है, तो इस पे तो बड़े कंसर्न भी हैं। और अभी भी जो है एक मीटिंग हमारी है, वो तो खैर इस इशू पे नहीं है, किसी और प्रोग्राम पे है, कोई 1:15 बजे के करीब पीएम साहब के साथ बुलाया उन्होंने। तो अगर मुझे मौका मिला या आज या काबीना में, तो मैं आपकी ये वाली बात जो डैम फंड की है, मैं उनको रिक्वेस्ट कर दूंगा और होपफुली इसका जो है आगे वे फॉरवर्ड उस डैम फंड की तरह नहीं होगा, इसमें बड़े पैसे भी आएंगे। तो और इंशाल्लाह ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी जो है हम सबकी है और इंशाल्लाह इसको हम पूरा करने की कोशिश करेंगे। जो मैंने शुरू में अर्ज़ किया वो ये था कि हम थोड़ा सा ये रियलाइज़ करें कि हमारे लोगों में मैंने थोड़ी सी कंप्लेसेंसी देखी है कि वो हम ये फील करते हैं यार कहीं बहुत दूर कोई मसला, ये बड़ा दूर नहीं है, काबुल पास ही है। और उसके इफेक्ट्स हम तो अभी कल जो हुआ है, जो मैं कल गया था, तो उसकी इफेक्ट्स है ना जी, जो आर्मी पब्लिक स्कूल में हुआ है। और वहाँ आर्मी पब्लिक स्कूल की टीचर मार्टर की वालिदा खुद टीचर भी हैं, क्या उनकी स्पिरिट है, जिस स्पिरिट से उन्होंने वहाँ पे बात की है, तो जज्बा तो है। लेकिन हमने कीमत तो चुकाई है। तो हमें ये फील करना चाहिए कि अगर हम आगे वहाँ अमन नहीं लाएंगे ना, पहले ये अमन सिर्फ उनके नहीं, पहले उनके फिर हमारे मफाद में है, और दूसरा ये अगर हम अमन नहीं लाएंगे दुनिया में से कोई उसको नहीं लाएगा, अल्लाह की मदद शामिल हाल रही। अदरवाइज वो सिर्फ अगर वो फेल स्टेट बनती है, सिर्फ वो नहीं, हम उसकी कीमत उनसे शायद हमें ज्यादा चुकाएंगे। उसकी वजह क्या है सर? उसकी वजह यह है कि एक आदमी का फर्ज करें 1 करोड़ रुपए का बड़ा खूबसूरत घर है, दूसरा नीचे झुग्गी में रहता है, ठीक है जी। अब इसको प्लीज समझें, ये बच्चे नौजवान भी बैठे हैं, आई होप मैं अच्छी सही एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ कि 1 करोड़ रुपए का घर है जिसमें लाखों रुपए की मालियत की गाड़ियां हैं और बड़ा हिसाब किताब है, साथ में गरीब की झुग्गी है। अच्छा, अब झुग्गी पे इन्वेस्टमेंट चंद हजार रुपए होगी, लेकिन अगर उसकी झुग्गी जलती है तो चांस है कि वो करोड़ों रुपए का घर भी जल जाए। हमारे स्टेट्स बहुत हाई हैं, ये न्यूक्लियर स्टेट है, अल्लाह के करम से ये बहुत बड़ा मुल्क है, इसमें बहुत आगे जाना है, अफगान में भी जाना है, लेकिन वहां जब मसला होगा तो हमारी तरक्की की रफ्तार रुकेगी। और जो आपने वो दूसरी बात की है बच्चों के हवाले से, तो वो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, क्योंकि जो आपने कहा कि लॉज में कोई मसला है और अफगान इशूज पे और सप्लाई चेन और इशूज पे ब्रिगेडियर साहब की माशाल्लाह बड़ी स्टडी मुझे लगता है, तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा शायद वो मेरे से बेहतर जवाब दे सकें इस पर। थैंक यू सर।
Ajit sir, before you quickly like to respond, I would like to tell the audience as well कि if anybody has a question in Pashto, they can ask it. Minister Saab, he understands Pashto, and who doesn't understand Pashto, we can translate it too. Maria herself, she's a Pashtun, so even I can translate your questions to her. So you can ask those questions later. But Brigadier Saab, according about those international claims on freezing the assets.
आपने पूछा ना claims वाला. Yes, there is one. Initially, it was the Afghans who said कि हमें war compensation दी जाए because दुनिया में निज़ाम है. Taliban side specifically talked on this because there have been many people who died in Afghanistan. In response, Americans have themselves also claimed compensation for their people to counter what the Afghans have said. तो ये although एक symbolic किस्म की वो है, उनको कहा गया, उनको समझाया गया कि ये एक प्रेशर डालना है. This is one of the way of asserting that. ये उस कॉन्टेक्ट में. बाकी I don't know.
Maria would like to add something.
Dr. Maria.
I'm just going to say कि जो legality of the state है, उसका ताल्लुक किसी भी government of the state के साथ नहीं होता. There are two different things. जो पैसे रोके गए हैं वो स्टेट ऑफ अफगानिस्तान के रोके गए हैं. अगर आप अफगानिस्तान का जो टेक ओवर है उसको अगर आप खुद ताक तौर पर भी देखते हैं तो it is not that the legality of the state has been questioned. The state continues to exist. So Afghanistan as a state is continuing to exist because of two accounts. One, the population of Afghanistan has not gone anywhere else. They're still in Afghanistan. Number two, the territory of Afghanistan has not been taken over by someone else. So there's no new demarcation of the Afghan state. So this entire debate on the legality of the state of Afghanistan is a different debate, which is being now linked to the government of Afghanistan. If a country faces a coup, what do? You stop recognizing the state. You stop giving them the right that the government does not occupy their seat in the United Nations. And if they don't, then on what basis is the UNMA actually going to continue its missions in Afghanistan? अगर आप recognize नहीं करें legally, तो आप किस basis पे कह रहे हैं कि आप UN Security Council resolution जो है वो 22 मार्च 2022 तक जो है it will remain in operation. So अगर आप एक basis legal correct है for international extension of operations, why the same legal basis is not correct for giving the right of their money back to them? मतलब किस basis के ऊपर कर रहे हैं? मतलब ये legally it's not justified. Yes, US can do this on domestic sanctions. US अपनी sanctions को review कर रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर इसी basis पर अगर आप आगे जाते हैं, if I was the Taliban government, I would definitely contest this legal opinion in the United States and take the American government on it, because on what basis did you actually negotiate with the Taliban and exit the American forces? If it's an illegal entity, a terrorist entity, then why have you exited? Why have you made a deal? So these are not simple answers, but legally they can be contested, and there's a strong basis on which they can be done. So quickly, थोड़ा सा
एक वो जो आपने पूछा था उसमें जो 10 बिलियन है, उन्होंने कहा हम उसमें से पैसे काटेंगे. अमेरिकन ये भी कह रहे.
This is the case which they have done in the case of Iran. Iran के अंदर Iranian army के बहुत सारे पैसे Iranian Ministry of Defense के बहुत सारे पैसे American गवर्नमेंट के पास थे once the Iranian Revolution happened. तो अमेरिका ने वो सारे के सारे पैसे रोक लिए और उन्होंने कहा कि हम ये पैसे नहीं देंगे. Now that amounts to almost $2 trillion plus.
It's not concerning directly with the Afghan issue, लेकिन ऐसी एक बात है, हमारे सीनियर्स बैठे हैं, आप लोगों से हम सीखते हैं. आपने मुझे इतना सुना, मैं शुक्रगुजार हूँ, मैं इस काबिल नहीं हूँ. आपने मुझे इज्जत दी, मुझे आपने सुना. एक बात मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहता हूँ. आज से बहुत साल पहले की बात है. When I joined Tehreek Insaf, I was not a political person. I was a man of pen. मैं इंजीनियरिंग की, फिर वकालत की तरफ गया और मैं कलम और किताब में खुश रहता था. बस हालात ऐसे बने कि मुझे कन्विंस किया मेरे ख़ानदान ने कि यार मुल्क बनाने वाला ख़ानदान है. दादा मेरे मुस्लिम लीगी थे, अलीगढ़ से, वो ऑल इंडिया मुस्लिम ट्रेडिशन में थे. उन्होंने कहा यार ये इमरान खान अच्छा आदमी है, मुल्क ठीक करने की कोशिश करे, आप उसके साथ लग जाओ. कोई मुझे नहीं पता था मैं कोई MNA वगैरह बनूंगा. तो उस जमाने की बात है जब नई नई तहरीक में शामिल थे, तो हमारे साथ मर्दान के एक लीडर थे. अब वो हमारी जमात में नहीं, उनकी बात बड़ी ज़बरदस्त थी. जो उन दिनों में हम थड़े पे बैठते थे, हर जगह जाते थे, अपनी पार्टी के लिए कन्विंसिंग करते थे. वी वर डूइंग इट फॉर पाकिस्तान, कि हमेशा हम पाकिस्तान के लिए करते हैं. वी आर नॉट डूइंग इट फॉर इमरान खान और एनीबॉडी. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग पॉलिटिकली, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द स्टेट. मौजम खान उनका नाम था, मौजम खान होती. अब आई थिंक पीपल्स पार्टी में उनका अलमिया है, जिस जमात की हुकूमत होती है वो अपोजिशन की जमात हो. तो उन्होंने एक एग्जाम्पल दी. मालदार आदमी है वो, सैर मैर करने के लिए लंदन वगैरह जाते रहते हैं. तो उन्होंने हमें एक बात की. उन्होंने कहा कि मैं गया लंदन, कहते हैं मेरी बच्ची मेरे साथ थी छोटी, तो उसको बड़ी सर्दी लग रही थी, तो उसके दस्ताने नहीं थे. तो उन्होंने कहा कि मैं उसको एक शॉप में ले गया, तो बच्ची के लिए, छोटी के लिए दस्ताने हमने ले लिए ना. तो कहते हैं कि जब दस्ताने ले लिए, शॉप से बाहर आ गए, तो पीछे से वो कोई दुकानदार खातून, कोई इंग्लिश लैंड लेडी थी ना, वो दुकानदार की मालिक खातून थी. तो मैं तो नहीं गया कभी लंदन, आप लोग गए होंगे, वो खवातीन भी दुकानदारी करती होंगी, आई डोंट नो. तो वो ओल्ड लेडी हम पे चीख रही थी. तो कहते हैं मैं बड़ा डर गया. वैसे ही पाकिस्तानी जो है, हम थोड़ा सा गोरों से वैसे ही दबे रहते हैं. तो कहते हैं मैं बड़ा डर अंदर गया कि उधर से मुझे डिपोर्ट ही ना करा दी अम्मा जी. कहती है अंग्रेजी में कि हे यू आर लिटरिंग माय कंट्री, व्हाट हैव यू डन, लुक. तो कहते हैं कि मैंने कहा कि मैंने तो कुछ नहीं किया, आपसे दस्तानी नहीं है, पैसे. उनका नहीं, पैसे तो दिए, बट लुक व्हाट यू हैव डन विद द रिसीप्ट, यू हैव जस्ट थ्रोन इट ऑन द फ्लोर, पिक इट अप एंड थ्रो इट इन द डस्टबिन. कि अम्मा जी नाराज हो रही थी कि तुम जो है साउथ एशियन, तुम मेरे मुल्क को गंदा कर रहे हो, उठाओ ये रसीद, तुमने जमीन पे फेंक दी, उठाओ उसको डस्टबिन में डालो. मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, जितने भी यूथ है, छोड़े कि PTI की हुकूमत है, नून की थी या आएगी या जिसकी भी है, ये मुल्क हमारा है ना जी. मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, हम अफगानिस्तान की हेल्प और दुनिया की और अपनी हेल्प तब कर सकेंगे जब अपने मुल्क को मजबूत करें. जिसकी जो ड्यूटी है ना, दूसरे की तरफ उंगली ना उठाएं, हम अपने हिस्से का बोझ जरूर उठाएं. कि शिकवा जुल्मत शब से तो बेहतर था कि अपने हिस्से की कोई शम्मा जलाते जाते. आप बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट पोजीशंस पे आने वाले हैं, आप अच्छी अच्छी जगहों पे जॉब करने वाले हैं. मेरी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि इस आदमी पे भी रहम करें और उस आदमी पे भी रहम करें. ये जिसके लिए उन्होंने स्ट्रगल की थी, वो ये मुल्क था, लेकिन ये निज़ाम और इस तरह का नहीं था. देखें, अगर हम मजबूत होंगे ना, आखिरी बात, अगर हम मजबूत होंगे, दुनिया हमारी कदर करेगी और हमारी बात पे दुनिया आके हमारी और लोगों की भी हेल्प करेगी. अगर हमारे स्टेक्स होंगे, अगर हम बड़े इकोनॉमिक पावर होंगे, टेक्नोलॉजिकल जायंट्स होंगे, दुनिया के लोग यहाँ सैर करने और यहाँ बिजनेस करने और यहाँ इंसानियत सीखने आएंगे. अलामा के इस शेर पे मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि कोई किसी की हेल्प नहीं करता, बस ये है कि तकदीर के काजी का ये फितवा है अजल से, हज़ल में ज़ईफ़ी की सज़ा मर्ग मफाजात.
Thank you so much. And person from third last row. आप अपना नाम बताइएगा पहले, introduce yourself first.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is Bahram Bahir. I am from Afghanistan. I do my master in public policy over there. Thank you, sir. أول بيدوه ما شيء متيولا تراب شير قد مرح كل أول وصلوا شيء غير بدي عنداس كنيش الوصلة جناب وزير سيبا وتاسشكم مين أفغان نتورك كده أو منتكم أميد راكوية دا زمطمئنم شد باكستان أما دا عوام وام دا picture دا شد دوی دا أفغان ولا سر دي رمين لري أو زخبلا بدي باوري ما شكير تمنجا په سیمایزه کچه باندې داسې یو پالیسي ولرو چې په هغه کې خپل ګاونډی ورور داسې وبولو چې هغه پرمختګ زموږ پرمختګ یې نه په هغه صورت کې موږ ټول په مشترکه په مخ باندې تللی شو. ډېره مننه جناب وزیر صاحب. Now I'm coming to my question. We do believe that everyone, the Afghans, the international society, the neighbors, everyone is asking Taliban to come for an inclusive government where the human rights, the women rights, the rights of speech to be obeyed and to be accepted. And do Taliban believe they have the previous experience that without a good relation with international society and without accepting the international rules, there couldn't be a successful government. They also came to that point. But now my question is, as I do believe that Sir has enough experience in with Afghanistan, with the regimes that went over there, what is the point behind the Taliban that they still stick with the one-man power? They still don't believe that inclusive government should not be there. What is the main reason and what are the main factors that are not allowing Taliban to come for inclusive government? And what do you think, what could be the possible solutions? Thank you, sir.
Who would like to respond to this question? Yes, Maria, please go ahead.
I think there are a few things which we need to understand. Number one, unfortunately, this transition which we have seen in Afghanistan has not come about as a result of an electoral process. It has come about as a result of the war on ground. And whenever there is war, it is always the War Council which comes to power. Now, as we also understand, this is the Taliban interim government. Now, is there going to be a next step? We are hoping for that. The international community is hoping that it will be an inclusive approach. Secondly, we must not forget that this is for the first time in the history of Afghanistan, as far as we know about it. Maybe if you go back, it was different, that there has not been a fight in the north. There's not been a fight in other provinces. People of Afghanistan have decided for peace. They have negotiated amongst themselves, whether it is in Herat, whether it is in Farah, whether it is in different areas. Good or bad, that negotiation has happened. But this transition towards a new government, we are hopeful that it will come forward. We are also hopeful that the Taliban will look into it. But the real contention at the moment, why we are all here together, is not because we believe in one government or we believe in this or that. The fact of the matter is this, that the government and the form of governance will be decided by the Afghans. It will be Afghan-led and Afghan-owned. We are here to say that the state of Afghanistan should not be put into crisis. If you put the state of Afghanistan in crisis, people of Afghanistan will suffer. And we are making this contention because we have seen refugees. You think so? It pained us to no bounds when we saw Afghans, literally dying from American aircrafts. Extremely brave people. You have put them to what? You made them to decide that Americans are the West or the Taliban. You created a fear for them themselves. Who are the Taliban? Are they Pakistanis? No. Are they Afghans? Yes. Are they representing Afghan opinion? We don't know that. But what we do know is that they are representing an Afghan fighting force on ground. We do recognize the fact that 20 years Afghanistan has been at war. So unfortunately, this transition has come about as a result of war, not as a result of electoral transformation. And had the unity government, had the Afghan previous governments delivered for the people of Pakistan, or for that matter, international community, or for that matter, the people of Afghanistan, we would have not seen such a rapid fall of Kabul. We would have not seen Mr. Ashraf Ghani picking up the bags and leaving the country. He would have stood for the people. He would have fought. He could have negotiated. Now, these are the hard realities. This is not something whether we would see differently or not. The fact of the matter is that if the world was really serious about this transition, then why is it that the intra-Afghan dialogue is expected to begin after the Taliban takeover? They should have started that in Doha. They should have given preference to it. Why is it that the Afghan unity government, halted the entire process on prisoner swap? The prisoner swap was not coming from anywhere else. This was the deal which the Americans negotiated with the Taliban. They negotiated. This was their condition. So if this was a condition you agreed on, then why is it that, the other part of the American government, which was supporting the unity government, did not ask the unity government to come forward and start that process? Today, we would have all been invested in that transition. But in this entire debate, what have you done? You perpetuated a humanitarian crisis. You have exited the people. You've disrespected the very fact the Afghans deserve their own government. They deserve their own people. And these are problems which the Afghans have to settle. But you have to give them the dignity to life. We are taking away the dignity to life. It's not about somebody comes here and becomes a refugee or becomes a refugee in Europe. They're very proud people. They have, seen worst of times. They have seen international security fronts. Now it is time that we recognize that we are confusing government inclusiveness to state inclusiveness. These are two different things, two different arguments. And even if you want government inclusiveness, this is not the way. Things could have been done differently, better. And that's all what we are contesting. That's all what we are saying. You want inclusiveness, by all means. You want them to be more responsive, by all means. But is this the way? You stop the right of food to them. You stop the right of, finance to them. You stop the right of trade to them. You stop the right of business to them. What do you want them to become? An aid-dependent nation? If you cannot have money, you can't have anything, what will you be? You will be even beyond Africa. You won't even have enough money to pay enough to get one piece of bread if there's no financial transactions happening. So this is what they're taking Afghanistan to, and this is what we are trying to stop. Because if this happens, Afghanistan, for the first time in its history, will become a failed state, not an informal state. Afghanistan was an informal state, not a failed state, because at least the people of Afghanistan were doing business, they were doing stuff. But if you take away everything and there's a financial collapse and there is a state collapse, nothing will be left.
I think we'll take 2 more questions. You want to add something, please?
بیر صاحب اول خو ډیره شکریا مهرباني ستاسو د ښه الفاظو ما چې سوي زما د زړه आवाज ځکه ما الفاظ ادا کړ او زموږ ستاسو منځ کې چې څه مشترک دي نو بشمار دي او ما خو درته دا وی کنه چې لکه دا موږ په تاسو څه احسان نه کوو او ما د پاکستان نور خلکو ته د ویلو دا کوشش وکړو او زه به دا بیا هم خاص کر پنجاب زموږ چې ډیره غټه صوبه ده زموږ د پاکستان زړه دی او زموږ فخر دی د پنجاب او سره سند او بلوچستان خو ظاهر حالت هم پښتانه شتاین په دې مسلو پوهیږي چې مونږ خپل خلک اول په دې پوه کړو چې په افغانستان کې کوم امن راوستو کې څه کردار ادا کولی شو یا هلته موږ ستاسو هیلپ کوو نو دا موږ ستاسو نه موږ خپل هیلپ کوو هغې وجه دا ده چې یو کس تعلیم یافته یي که نه جي تاسو به یو شی کتلی پښتانه ملګري بناسي आपने सर एक चीज देखी होगी कि हमारे माशरे में कुछ जो हमारे दही इलाका ना myself from a rural background so what happens is there are kids of the same grandfather but some of them remain in the village they are into those infightings and guns and badmashi and all things and there's one son who goes and who educates himself and he takes his kids outside the country or something and they get educated so when they come back so they are the children of the same grandfather but those who are living in that area who are fighting and killing each other and the other who is educated the educated guy has got so many things at stake वो कहता है नहीं मैं नहीं लड़ूंगा कहते मेरे बच्चे ऑक्सफोर्ड में पढ़ रहे हैं मेरे दिमाग खराब है मैं इनको इधर लड़ाऊं मैं जाओ अपने बच्चों को बाहर भेज देते फलाना क्योंकि उसने जिंदगी में इतना कुछ हासिल कर लिया होता है वो देखता है कि यार इस लड़ाई में एंगेज होके मैं कमाऊंगा कितना और हारूंगा कितना तो पाकिस्तान वो मुल्क है जो इतना आगे जा चुका है और इतना आगे जा रहा है कि हम तो एक सेकंड के लिए भी नहीं सोच सकते कि अफगानिस्तान में अमन ना हो क्योंकि अमन नहीं होगा तो हमारा बेड़ा गर्क होगा तो अगर हम आपकी हेल्प करें पहले तो ये ज़हन से निकालें हम पे कोई एहसान आप पे कर रहे हैं एज अ मुस्लिम दिस इज आवर रिस्पांसिबिलिटी एज अ पश्तून दिस इज आवर रिस्पांसिबिलिटी एज नेबर्स दिस इज आवर रिस्पांसिबिलिटी पाकिस्तान हैड बीन डूइंग दिस रिस्पांसिबिलिटी सिंस एजेस सिंस 1979 एक बदकिस्मती रही है जिसमें हम आप जैसे यूथ की जरूरत है और वो ये है देखें हमसे भी गलतियां हुई हैं माजी में आपकी स्टेट से भी हुई हैं लेकिन आपको ये रियलाइज करना चाहिए हमारे नेबरहुड एक है हमारा कल्चर एक है हम में से बहुत से लोग एक जबान बोलते हैं हमारा मजहब एक है हमारे इंटरेस्ट एक हैं हम आपके जरिए ऊपर जाना चाहते हैं वहाँ सेंट्रल एशिया तक आप हमारे साथ ट्रेड करके नीचे गर्म पानियों में जाना चाहते हैं पाकिस्तान के साथ आपकी 75-80% ट्रेड पाकिस्तान के साथ होती है बीच में ये जो चाचा कैदू है ना हिंदुस्तान उसका ना आपसे मजहब एक है ना उसका आपसे बॉर्डर मिलता है ना उसके कोई इंटरेस्ट है उसका एक इंटरेस्ट है ये भी आपको बता दूं कोई लव लॉस नहीं है हिंदुस्तान का अफगानिस्तान से वो सिर्फ आपके जरिए उधर घुस के हमें मारना चाहता था जो उस पर अल्लाह ने नाकाम किया है मैं आखिर में दोबारा आपको ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि हमारा यहाँ जो स्पिरिट है आप लोगों से यकीन करें वो आर्टिफिशियल नहीं है हमारा लीडर आपसे मोहब्बत करता है हमारी सोच है हमारा फॉर्मर प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो मियां नवाज शरीफ जो गुजरे हैं या जरदारी साहब उनकी भी हमारी स्टेट की पॉलिसी में आपको बता दूं हुकूमतें आने जाने से हमारी रियासत पाकिस्तान की पॉलिसी नहीं बदलती हम हमेशा आपकी उस राइट को एक्सेप्ट करते हैं कि आपको हक है अब ये जो अफगान तालिबान साहिबान आए हैं, अगर उनकी जगह कोई और हो, आप हमें बता दें, मुझसे डील कर लेते हैं। तो नहीं है तो उन्हीं से करेंगे। पहले अशरफ गनी साहब थे, उनसे कर रहे थे, अब ये हैं, अब उनसे करेंगे। वो आपका मसला है, आपने जिससे उधर हुकूमत करानी है कराएं। अफगान तालिबान की जगह किसी और ने करनी हो, जाके कर ले। हम ये कहते हैं जिसने भी करनी है रियासत को अमन से रखे, ताकि आपके और हमारे मामला चलते रहें। आखिर में एक शेर और आपको पश्तो के लिए, ताकि और आपको तसल्ली हो कि इंशाल्लाह ये जो है ना, इधर कोई आप, आई होप यू आर फीलिंग लाइक यू आर सिटिंग इन योर ओन कंट्री। ठीक है ना जी, कोई एलियननेस का कोई फीलिंग आपको नहीं होगी। तो वो इस तरह है पश्तो में कि तल बपलार द मेड़नो सरजम, हाँ, तल बपलार द मेड़नो सरजम, यम पुख्तुन द पुख्तनो सरजम, वही अगयार चिद दोजख जबदा, वही अगयार चिद दोजख जबदा, जब जन्नत तम द पुख्तो सरजम। ठीक है जी।
थैंक यू वेरी मच। और एम्बेसडर सर, मैं इसकी ट्रांसलेशन फिर आपको करके दूंगी बाद में। ही इज ऑलवेज, ही लव्स टू लाइक लिसन टू ऑल दीज थिंग्स, पश्तो स्पेसिफिकली। मैं क्वेश्चंस लेना चाहती, बट ड्यू टू पॉसिटिव ऑफ टाइम मिनिस्टर साहब आल्सो हैव टू लीव। और चाय पे बाकी क्वेश्चंस कर लीजिएगा आप इनफॉर्मल तरीके से। और अभी आई वुड लाइक टू इनवाइट प्रेसिडेंट IRS इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ रीजनल स्टडीज एम्बेसडर नदीम रियाज फॉर हिज थैंकिंग नोट, ताकि वो कंक्लूड भी करें सेशन को और तमाम गेस्ट का शुक्रिया भी अदा करें। सर प्लीज।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It was a very interesting panel discussion. I'll take a few minutes to talk a little bit about it. But I think the most important thing is for our Afghan friends who continue to visit this institute. I've been talking to you for a very long time. Please understand that we are your well-wishers and we are your friends. Afghanistan is your country. You have the right to have any government which you want over there. But please do realize that Taliban today are a reality. They are there. They have come to power by defeating a mighty superpower. They walked into Kabul in 11 days against all expectations, against all projections by many a world leaders and by many a world analysts. I think the most important message, sir, which we need to give out to the world on the eve of this important OIC Foreign Ministers Conference is that there is a humanitarian crisis brewing in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a state. It has or should have a government, but the people of that country are very important. And I don't think any international organization, any power has the right to take the right of living from the people of Afghanistan. There is a humanitarian crisis. Children are going without food. People are going without any medical assistance. There is no business which is taking place due to non-banking channels and due to a virtual failure of economy. So if this condition is allowed to persist, it will not only be detrimental for the political stability of Afghanistan, it will also be detrimental to the security and stability of the region. And all countries of the world in one way or the other will get affected, because if the Afghans are to become economic migrants, which will be for the first time, they will knock on the shores of Europe. They will knock on the shores of other countries. And that will be a situation which the world will have to confront itself with. So we hope that this important conference, which is going to take place on the 19th, the Muslim Ummah will send a very strong message to the world. It will send a message to the world that humanitarian assistance should be given to the Afghans regardless of anybody who's at the helm of affairs in Kabul. We have to have a roadmap. We have to have what we need to do to help the people of Afghanistan. I think if that is the message which goes out, sir, from the OIC Foreign Ministers Conference, the world will also move towards helping the Afghan people, and they will give the necessary assistance which is required. But I think the most important thing is it's not the assistance, it is allowing the country to operate as a free, independent nation in the comity of nations. Because I go to the old dictum, if you give a man fish, he can eat it for lunch or dinner. But if you give him a fishing rod, he can be self-sufficient. I think self-sufficiency and the development of Afghan economy is the most important thing. I would once again like to thank everybody for being here. I think it was, I think that the discussion which took place from a very distinguished panel, I was able to learn a lot from it. Thank you very much. And after a short ceremony over here, I would like to invite everyone on the rooftop to have tea with us. And you can continue our questions over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. And I would like to thank all the distinguished guests here who were present here. They talked their hearts and minds about Afghanistan. Probably, I hope your few of your questions were met and you are satisfied, but rest of the questions can be met like in an informal discussion. The Afghananu taraf na hum tasu tulu dira manana tasu dil taragle tasu dear questions tasu responses hum darkal chawi hum dadi puxtane kawul hoxtal aw tasu ne jawabun de hoxtal dira manana. Once again, thank you very much all of you.
भाई को एक और भी चीज बताना चाहता हूँ. When I was in Kabul a couple of years ago, तो मैं खान साहब की सियासत ने मेरी थोड़ी सी वकालत भी बुला दी है, तो मेरी वो लिखने की सलाहियत भी कम हो गई, क्योंकि ज्यादातर अब जलसों जुलूसों में होते हैं. लेकिन मेरी थोड़ी बीमारी थी, मैं लिखता था तो शायरी वगैरह कुछ, जैसे मैंने एपीएस के बच्चों के लिए लिखा है. कल मैंने वो शेर पढ़ा, वो तो खैर मौका नहीं है तो वो नहीं पढ़ता मैं. लेकिन काबुल में जब जिस सुबह मैं जागा पहली सुबह, तो मेरे उधर 2 रातें उधर मेरी गुजरी. एक मैंने बाय रिक्वेस्ट मैंने पाकिस्तान हाउस में अपने उधर घर में गुजारी, मेरी ख्वाहिश थी मैं पाकिस्तान हाउस में रात करूं. और एक आप लोगों ने मेरी मेहमानी की तो रियासत की तरफ से आपकी, तो मैं उधर काबुल सरीना में था. तो उस सुबह मैंने काबुल के लिए थोड़ी सी कुछ शायरी की थी, वो मेरे ट्विटर पे मौजूद है, वो ज़रूर आप सर्च कीजिएगा. वो आप अफगान कौम के लिए और काबुल के लिए थी कि वहाँ बड़ी अच्छी फीलिंग थी, लेकिन उसमें थोड़ा दर्द भी था कि बड़ा खून बहा है और बड़ी गोलियां चली हैं. अफगानियों का भी हक है कि वो भी जिंदा रहें, वो भी जिंदगी की खुशियां एंजॉय करें, वो भी अपने बच्चों की चेहरे की मुस्कुराहट महसूस करें. खासकर जिन बच्चों ने हमारे नहीं पढ़ी, आप जरूर पढ़िएगा, खालिद हुसैनी की काइट रनर पढ़िएगा, आपका दिल रोएगा पढ़ते हुए कि जिस तरह वो अफगान कौम बेचारी जिन मुश्किलात से गुजरी हैं. सो टू सॉल्व द अफगान प्रॉब्लम, यू नो, वी हैव टू हैव अ वेरी सिंपैथेटिक हार्ट कि भाई हमारे जैसे लोग हैं, उनको मसले हैं, वो मस्ट कम फॉरवर्ड और मसले उनके हल करें.
Thank you very much, sir. There's a brief ceremony of handing over the souvenir. You are welcome to the
President IRS would like to present tokens of appreciation to Honorable Minister Ali Mohammed Khan, Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs, Ambassador Asif Durrani, Senior Research Fellow at IPRI, Dr. Maria Sultan, Director General, South Asian Strategic Stability Institute, University, Brigadier Ishaq Ahmed Khatter, and our moderator for today, Ms. Samira Khan. We would also like to virtually send our thanks to Dr. Chauhan for joining us today. We will be sending the token to him. Now, if Team IRS could please come forward so that we can take a group picture. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Please join us on the roof for tea and refreshments.